So yeah, Smart Wargames here, welcome back. Let's play some Mario Kart V. I remember playing it many years ago with the family, but I can't remember it anymore, and somehow re-enjoyed now us playing here Mario Kart 64 and Super Mario Kart. So I wanted to dig into that, and being a V, I think that is a good opportunity to test out my Dualsense PS5 controller I recently acquired. First things first, yeah, you don't need it. If you have an Xbox controller or whatever and you say, nah, I only need one controller, I don't want you to toy around, you will figure it out. Controller might be overpriced, yeah. It looks and also feels very premium, and at least Sony is doing here some stuff to improve, but still the sticks are still the same old technology and weird down, and people report sticks breaking down after a month of regular playing. Yeah. Those new controllers all look shiny, but are even worse in the reliability and endurance than I know some controllers 30, 40, 50 years old. Yeah. So I didn't buy that for $75, that is a regular price. I think I bought it on Amazon on a Black Friday or what, and warehouse new, factory new, but something with broken packaging or whatever, something unimportant. I usually throw away the packaging anyways, I don't care for that. And I got exactly this color here. So yeah, the controller feels good. Sure, it has this PlayStation layout of the sticks and the D-pad. For the D-pad it is good. On the other hand, it is also a bit far away, I must say. But perhaps it is simply muscle memory. The D-pad, if you want to use the D-pad and the buttons, the distance is a bit big. Compared to something like a SNES controller or Xbox controller where the D-pad is here. So what is it coming? I mean, don't want to go too deep. There's probably tons of videos on YouTube. D-pad is fine, but a bit unique because of this. It is one disc. It looks like it's not. There's even a separate for all four, which really prevents mistaken inputs. You can update that to basically separate, but the original has one disc, which, depending on how you press it, can still cause accidental inputs of other directions, which is not really that often happening. So yeah, two sticks. It has a speaker for whatever stuff you need. It has a touchpad with a button. There is a touchpad here. The entire thing is a touchpad. It has the rear triggers are adaptive. So by the game or whatever, they can be set to some sort of virtual resistance, like using a brake in a car or accelerator or whatever. So that's pretty cool. Some toying around and whatever. Yeah, that is the like to think of what controller 1 or 2 is connected. That like gives you information about the battery. So despite the quality concerns, you must say at least Sony tried. I mean, it's the second Dualsense, but with the Dualsense they tried to improve. Motor-wise, yeah, you have the I think 2 motors in the handles and 2 on the triggers as the Xbox, but they pull off this haptics mode, which is way more nuanced than the vibration in the Xbox controller. Yeah, I also was thinking, wow, crazy. Yeah, we will talk about this a bit more later, but it's not that crazy. You don't. Yeah, you can feel racing games, every curb, whatever. Okay. And what is interesting about the rear triggers, and that is often a problem, especially if you want to play some higher sim racing games, that they are simply too short from the range. The same as the Xbox controller. While for the sticks, you have those stick caps, which you can put on those sticks. I recommend you not to get those expensive ones. You can simply get some Chinese ones, they're the same quality. probably even produced in the same factory. On the other hand, at least here from my country, they are now breaking down hardcore on Chinese imports. It's massive import taxes. So I probably in the end you will end up like paying for those Timmies that give you stick caps for $10, $15, even $20. While the product itself is coming from China for $1. Yeah. In order to ease up the stick range. Yeah. But that is something you can do as an Xbox controller to put some FPS gamers often do that. Enough to have more precision. And what is interesting about the PlayStation controller is that because of the shape of the rear triggers, you can also put on, without glue or whatever, with trigger extenders. Yeah. I got some cheap ones for $1. Yeah, they might break if you don't handle them correctly, but they are firm and they might extend the trigger down to here, which is already tested out in certain games where you need simply more precision, which simply your fingers can't provide. Yeah. Especially when it comes to throttle and brake, perhaps a bit more more sim racing games, and you don't want to roll a racing wheel, that can be really cool. So that's a nice add-on. One thing that is obvious is the battery life of this thing, probably also because of this tons of features. Yeah, touchpad. There is an entire touchpad here, and it is a button itself. Yeah. I think even it can register where you press the button. So there's a touchpad, plus it can register where you press it down. Yeah, of course, yeah, by adding both together. Yeah, it is gimmicky. I checked some PlayStation 5 games, most stuff is rather gimmicky. Yeah. Even more gimmicky than, I don't know, back in the days, the Wii controllers. Because, I don't know, shake to open inventory or whatever. Yeah, the sticks are PlayStation sticks. The controller is heavy, massively heavy. But now, because why did I got it? Because it is considered, if you want a jack of all trades controllers, there's two controllers around. You want to play retro gaming, you want to play modern games, you want to play especially Nintendo Wii games, which had those motion controllers, or perhaps some, yeah, but those Xbox and PlayStation Move games or whatever, yeah, which are not really a big thing anymore. Then a PlayStation 5 Dualsense controller is probably the best jack of all trades, one of the two jack of all trades, as it also has a gyroscope, and that is not in the Xbox controller. There is a gyroscope integrated, so you can wave around the controller. Some FPS gamers even use that for precision aiming with a sniper or something. If you wave around the controller, you can still use the sticks, but by waving around or with the controller, you can basically precision guide your crosshair. Which also makes it a really good emulator controller for especially Wii games. The Wii games were heavily, or DS games, also the touchpad makes it easier to emulate Nintendo DS games. As the thing, yeah, with the it had this touchpad ruler, touchpad pen. So it's not perfect, of course, but you can emulate with that on Nintendo DS on screen, basically like a touchpad of a notebook. That thing here, yeah. And with the gyroscope, you can emulate some stuff of some motion stuff, like of the modern Wii controllers. What was it called? Wii Mode Plus. Yeah. The original Wii Mode, I didn't think had a gyroscope. It had only some shake sensor or whatever, but the modern Motion Plus had gyroscopes, which is also in this controller. This controller can register like your modern phones if you're moving it around. Yeah. If you need that stuff. Again, you will always find an emulator solution even for those Nintendo Wii games. And those adaptive triggers, cool, yeah. But you can also mod it, yeah, not hardware mod, you can software mod it, basically get some sort of quick trigger out of it, you know, that some FPS gamers do that in order to have because they don't need that range. They simply want click immediately. But okay, I mean, you can also set every controller, also Xbox controller, you can set if you press a button slightly down, it immediately triggers the function. There is of course some bells and whistles, and also it's cool because you also feel the vibration and the resistance. I tested out some games, but it's rather, yeah, probably after 1 hour of gaming you will forget about it. Yeah, it doesn't have rear buttons or whatever, so that is fine. Never needed them, but sure. Button-wise, good. Very heavy again, while the battery is rather short. I guess also because of all those massive functions. But Sony really cheapened out on the battery, which is even worse, and don't get that piece of shit controller on the Edge. The Edge is basically the elite Xbox controller of Sony, costing I think $200 or $300. And yeah, you can replace the stick modules, which cost like another $20 without shipping, I guess. Which is basically an entire controller. Yeah, to some extent. You can also mod it with HAL sensor, TML sensor sticks. Problem is a lot of people simply don't get the same resistance out of those. But there's countless mods. I have a custom battery here, which has, I don't know, triple or quadruple the size of that controller. It costs only a couple of dollars. Let's see how those big, that tells you how those big brands then cheapen out. Yeah, on the outside the shell is, yeah, quality, sure. But the battery and everything, at least you can detach the battery. But I still think Xbox has a complete, I mean, they have a battery box. I don't know, did they remove that on the new controllers? On mine I can remove the battery pack and replace it. That is really cool. PlayStation 5 doesn't have that. You need to open my controller, which is really Peter. To open that controller without damaging it is almost impossible. If you open it up, even with specialized tools, you for sure will probably or likely leave marks. But yeah, the battery can be detached and replaced by a better one. It's even worse on the Edge. The Edge controller is, I think, the most laughable, but the Xbox Elite controller is same. And they both also suffer, but from worse latency than the original ones, despite being described for the pro market. Yeah. Good. But I'm using it not for the PlayStation 5, but for PC. So on PC you can of course connect it wired. There is a wired mode, it will be recognized. Wired is good, yeah. And there's Bluetooth. Bluetooth of course is somewhat considered, yeah, problematic, while I think good Bluetooth controllers, and the Dualsense is a good Bluetooth controller, like the Xbox controller. The Xbox controller, also the classic 1708 is a good one. I get 8 milliseconds out of my old school Xbox controller and still don't have stick drift, while it seems like the new controllers have shittier quality, despite costing more. Same for this guy, you can connect it regularly Bluetooth on your PC. However, all those haptics functions and whatever might not work. Yeah. This special vibration, slim vibration stuff will not work because the bandwidth, the Bluetooth protocol doesn't allow it. But it still has a pretty good latency. However, if you want to go really a bit into that, especially if you're into retro gaming and want to lower your latencies, especially if you're playing beat-em-up games, those games were designed for CRTs with low latency. And we already talked about that some modern controllers, including emulation. Yeah, emulation always adds a bit of latency, then modern screens add some latency. And then you have a controller that adds a lot of latency. Some controllers that are really crap, yeah, like 8-bit DO controllers, but they are all getting simped over all YouTube. But you never see a latency test in those. Why the PlayStation 5 controller is also regarded as one of the best jack of all trades retro controllers. Not only its massive functionality, having touchpads, gyros, sticks, a decent D-pad. D-pad is at least registering properly. You can also replace it, some satellite mods, whatever. A touchpad, so Nintendo DS, gyroscope, so V. Of course, it doesn't have an infrared sensor like the original V modes with the sensor bar. But again, the V mode Plus was rather operating on gyros. Still operating on, because I got one even emulated on PC. I remember that many years ago. Triggers, yeah. And but what also makes it such a good choice is its massive low latency. Currently here, what? Oh wait, is it another one? Did I close it down? Okay. That thing can roll a polling rate of 1000 Hz. I don't know why Sony did that, but it's good that they did that. A regular Xbox controller, wired, not sure, but I think it now on wired as well has 125 Hz. Because a lot of pro gamers like to use the Dualsense, as it is coming with really low latency, and you feel that especially also in retro games, even being a normie. However, there is a way to get past Bluetooth limitations, especially if you care for the haptics. I won't do that for the latency. I think the latency gain between Bluetooth 125 Hz and other solutions 1000 or 500 Hz is not really that important. Rather for the haptics stuff, which simply can't be put over Bluetooth because it is simply then. I mean, the protocol is getting really good, and people that know how to build controllers really can really get really good, like the original Xbox controller. 8 to 10 milliseconds is absolutely fine. I talked about that is because that normies might notice 20 milliseconds input lag or 20 milliseconds latency, especially if you add then the other latencies. So 8 to 10 is even the original Xbox controller is one of the best, but the PlayStation as well. But I built a custom wireless dongle, and you can do that with a Raspberry Pi for $13, which you can also use for other stuff. Yeah, you can build everything out of that thing. I bought that. It is micro USB, so you need to get a cable for that, and you need to make sure that it's not some power-only cable. Yeah? So don't use some shit. If you wonder why your Pico 2, exactly, I got a Pico 2 W. W stands for wireless. This thing has wireless function. A wireless receiver built onto that small. And you need a micro USB cable, yeah. And it needs to transmit enough data to be able to work. And then you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah, it's basically you can flash it with whatever you want. But for PlayStation 5 controllers on PC, there's a really good solution called DS5 Dongle, which you hold the power button down and then you flash it with those UF2 files. I have two here. I will tell you why. Normally it's only one. You put it simply on your Raspberry Pi and it gets flashed, and then it's basically becoming a Dualsense dongle. Yeah. If you don't want, you can also make something else out of it. So I got that here. Keep in mind, you need a cable. You don't need those contacts. There's versions that have those. You don't see it from. Yeah, here you see it. That already have those soldering contacts. If you don't plan to solder it on something, you should not, because it makes it easier to store. But you need a cable. Either you buy one with a cable included, or you get yourself a, I don't know what, 50 centimeter, 1 meter USB mini cable, and then you can either flash that on. Yeah, that's an original DS5 dongle firmware for the Raspberry Pi 2W. It also works with some other Raspberry Pi solution. Also doesn't. Raspberry Pi is also getting Chinese copied. They will also work because they are one-to-one. But there's some copies that strive away from the original solution, then you need to check the releases as some of the popular copies that change the architecture. You can also find firmware. And then you have also haptic support for games that have this. Yeah. Advanced vibration feedback. And headset audio output, so you can use the 3.5 jack. And also the microphone. That is, I mean, a big advantage. And you have the ability to run it 1000 Hz super low latency wireless. Yeah. The disadvantage of having this Pico 2W dongle in contrast to a regular Bluetooth PC Windows connection. However, there's a fork of this. Fork basically is a sort of subversion, yeah, called Auto Haptics, as most PC games don't have haptic support. This here comes with a different firmware based on this, and as a software I'm already running. You also can comfy set up your stuff and basically flash your PS5 Dualsense controller settings live. Here you can also set the polling rate and flash it, and then you have it. If you go into the testing program, you can do a test on that and see it roars indeed 1000 Hz with a massive short 1 millisecond. However, there are some people on the internet that claim that 500 Hz is better because it is more has less peaks, less jitter. Could be jitter. I don't know. But again, if I compare that to some other controller solutions, it is super fast. It's the fastest controller. The Steam controller, no, the Steam controller is not that fast. The Steam controller is another control. The new Steam controller is another jack of all trades, as coming with gyroscopes, but comes at least with Hall sticks. Yeah, so it is either PlayStation 5, the Dualsense, or the new Steam controller. I would say that is a jack of all trades. So it depends on the form factor and everything. I mean, the Steam controller with its touchpads added is really like the new Duke. But there's of course massive values. I mean, we tested here controllers like wired controllers with what 50 or something. That's a complete joke. But you never read about that on YouTube because all the simp chill is, man. Yeah, great controller. Nobody's doing, because latency is a big thing. You might, and just because some guy on Twitter says I didn't notice anything doesn't mean that it is not impacting. There's controllers that are basically barely usable. Yeah, I can also play with a broken controller video game and be happy about that. Yeah. But if you buy a controller for such money, then it should work, and also should have, especially if you want to go into retro gaming as well. Not only retro gaming, also modern gaming, without having some. Again, at 20 milliseconds, even a regular will notice, but perhaps not admit after you bought some shitty 8DO controller with massive input lag, and oh no, my controller is great. I'll never notice anything. That's the issue. You will know, hey man, I spent $100 on that controller and realize it is shit. That is what you will not read on Twitter or Reddit. Yeah. So that is, if you look for a low latency controller that can do everything and has a touchpad that is perhaps not that crazy like a Steam controller. It has also a bigger touchpad, yeah, instead of two small touchpads that can, of course, especially considering the Nintendo DS emulation, which usually work with a screen touchpad, be also better, yeah, if you compare it to the Steam controller. So from the size, yeah, I mean, that thing is of course a Duke. Yeah. It's a new But quality-wise, it is better. But it also has gyroscopes, yeah, 2 mini touchpads, which the PlayStation controller has here. Yeah. Those sticks. A D-pad similar to the PlayStation. Yeah, I mean, otherwise it is basically a PlayStation layout in contrast to the Xbox layout. But I don't know, the controller looks overloaded, if you ask me. Latency-wise, I think I checked the video, but I don't know. I don't think it will pull off a PlayStation. I don't know how PlayStation went with that 1000. That is rather surprising for those guys. Running a controller with such a low latency, very good. So that is a Pico solution, but again, as a Bluetooth, what is there else to say? Yeah, exactly. There's a Dualsense Edge. Don't get that, except you are some simp. $200, okay. That controller has even a worse latency, and that controller has a battery life that's a joke. Average battery life is what was it? 3 hours. Pro controller, $200, same shitty battery. They didn't even switch out the battery, but you can remove the sticks, which are the same shitty sticks like on the original potentiometer based or friction. Yeah, not yeah, basically friction. I don't know. Yeah, there's additional buttons. I think it's even heavier. And yeah, you can replace the sticks or replace the stick caps, okay. Oh, yeah, exactly. And you can switch the triggers to that you just basically to a click function. Yeah. Click, click, click instead of the range. It then maintains here and you click it for your shooter games or whatever. Okay, yeah, that is of course cool. Back pedals look. We grip the controller. Look fine. They shouldn't get into the way. I held some of those pro controllers. It sometimes can be even annoying. Even if you don't map those buttons, it can be super annoying to have those back buttons. Some controllers allow you to remove those pedals. Yeah. I think you can also remove it from this one here. I think the Xbox Elite controller also allows you to remove them. Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, if you can get it, yeah. For the price I got it, I think it is good. This has definitely more functionality than an Xbox controller. While the Xbox controller, at least, especially my old school model, must say, is I already threw it down 20 times. Not sure if I would like to throw down this DualSense controller here, especially also because of its weight. And I still didn't dare to open it up despite having here some mod parts I want to try out, like a satellite dish for the D-pad and a bigger battery, which was super cheap. Where people say it extends the battery life thrice. Yeah. So that is, I mean, modern stuff. Outside it looks, wow, man. That's what you also see in those YouTube videos. Wow, it's so quality. While inside is complete cheap shit. Yeah. But nobody dares to test it. But yeah, latency-wise, Sony definitely delivered here. Again, even Bluetooth mode is fast, but if you build your own Rasberry dongle, and again, yeah, 1000 or 500 hertz, I don't think is really. Well, some pro gamers can tell that. And I will run it. I need to check the getting a package. Good, let's continue. Yeah, so about this debate, we already had that decades ago with mice. Up to 500 hertz for example, yeah, gaming mouse was long the standard, and then gaming mice appeared with 1000 hertz. While also you saw a lot of pro gamers still to this very day playing rather at 500 hertz. Yeah. Hertz is basically polling rate per second, yeah? And it rather then is questionable if such a high polling rate, especially considering that that signal needs to be routed through the hardware, through the USB, and through whatever, or wireless. If that even makes sense to have such a high polling rate, or and sometimes it is only the peak rate a device can achieve. Why it might introduce errors running such high polling rates. And I think I saw the similar, or basically exactly the same debate with mice. I run mine at 1000, but there's also some bollocks. I think there's mice that now claim they have whatever 4000, 8000. It's complete bollocks if you're just marketing numbers. Doesn't even make sense. And same for controllers. So I like to run mine at 500. But I'm also a normie, I can't tell. Couldn't tell the difference. Both are super fast. I definitely notice it playing, let's say, compared to some 8-bit DO controller. As I mentioned, I sent one back because it was too slow. And I'm a normie, I'm not some hardcore retro gamer you see playing your war games and whatever stuff. I always recommend to check out here. They don't have all controllers, but you will get an idea. And how often that is overlooked on purpose, probably also by all those controller shills that tell you, yeah, I don't receive any money, it's my opinion. Jimmy, you received a free controller, so it's not really your opinion. If I receive a free game, I'm also acting different than if I would bought that game from a Steam store. It is what it is. If somebody tells you that sentence, he's already 10-20% fucking shit. Because every real honest person would tell you, hey, I received that controller or that hardware or that game for free, which already makes you biased. If you shit on a controller hard, when I receive a controller from 8-bit DO and say that it's the biggest piece of shit pile I've ever received, do you think 8-bit DO will send me another free controller in the future? Yeah, get the idea. That's why I often have those rather limp opinions. Yeah, it's still a good controller. It has a latency of 100 milliseconds. It's still good. If you like it, I like to play it. After 1 week, never ever mentioned again. Yeah. It's the best controller I ever used. 1 week later, next controller. It's the best controller I've ever used. That's what I also figured out. Getting those, especially retro controllers. All this retro stuff on YouTube is super shilled. I really couldn't figure shit out until it arrived, and I figured out, oh man, what did I buy into there? And always, all those tests, in quotation marks, always was about, yeah, this is, feels good, yeah, connects easily. Perhaps they do a stick test, yeah, which is great, okay, but do also a latency test. Latency for control is super important, especially using those different modes. If you want to play some Street Fighter game and that thing registers way too slow. So yeah, 500 Hz, 1000 Hz, I don't know. I mean, again, some Jimmy said really duck into that claim, 500 Hz is better. And that is, you can also do that with other software. And what is this auto haptics? Auto haptics is basically the fork, the GitHub fork of DS5 dongle that translates audio signals. It routes audio signals through the software. You need to keep it open. Yeah? Through this software and translate it to haptic signals for your controller. So even if you play Max Payne 1 or any other game, I don't even know how exactly haptic support for PC works. Is there even any PC game that has real haptic support? Seems like there is. PlayStation titles. Perhaps they left the code inside there, I don't know. But normally this haptic support is exclusive, not exclusively, but meant for the PlayStation 5. Yeah. While even those guys don't use it that often because it is a bit gimmicky. And I must say, I use this haptic stuff. It's not that crazy compared to regular vibration motors you have in Xbox or whatever controllers. was thinking, what is haptics? You feel every curb while driving your car. You feel every shift. Perhaps I'm definitely an insensitive person, but yeah, it's of course not that crazy. I don't know. I guess it is more a software evolution than real hardware evolution, because I mean that thing is still containing, I think, 2 big vibration motors and 2 trigger motors, like most modern controllers. Perhaps those vibration motors are more sensitive, yeah. And whatever, but this haptic stuff of the PS5 controller, which really got me interested. But I must admit, I was thinking, yeah, okay, it's not really not really much of a big deal. Then eventually, so I wouldn't get it for that. But otherwise, I mean, compared to the price, especially for the price I got it, I don't know what the current Xbox price is, but they are also super expensive, right? It was so what, $70-$80. You must admit, Sony and Microsoft both being POS companies, on purpose selling you shitty controllers so that you buy more controllers. There's good evidence for that. They show you how much money they make with controller replacements. Back in the days, it was, I think, average. Every console owner bought 2 controllers, something like that. Now it is 4 controllers per console owner or something else. It's a joke, yeah. After a couple of years, as reliability even got worse than back in the days. And they of course want to make money. And that Edge controller, sorry, there's some. Yeah, I wanted to invest. I know it's expensive, but at least I can replace the sticks. 1 stick, $20. That costs in production $1. 1 stick, not 2. 1 stick, Sony replacement $20, and also out of stock always. $20 per stick, so $40 to replace a shitty $1 sticks, which is basically a new controller. And about the polling rate, you see nowadays controllers marketing 8,000 hertz. Yeah. That is 8,000 times polling per second. Now consider, does that make sense for you? Especially with all the millisecond delays going on, which is way more important that they get the Bluetooth stuff right, the USB cable stuff right, and whatever get right. There's controllers that have this, yeah, holy 8,000 hertz polling rates, but they run slower than a crappy, shitty, my old school Xbox controller. So watch out for that. Similar with mice, you already had that. With massive DPI numbers nobody will ever need. If my mice has 50,000 DPI. On what DPI do you run it? 800, yeah. And same with this 8,000 hertz. 8,000 hertz sounds rather, it's a joke. Yeah. But they know all hopping on the train, 8,000 hertz train. But if you check then verified but also user-fied data on here, for example, a page like Game Paddler, you don't want to buy those controllers. You see some of them have really bad latencies despite the 8,000 hertz. Because the 8,000 hertz is happening here somewhere, but then you need to send it either via Bluetooth and whatever. And Bluetooth, I like wireless gaming. And if you check, you see a massive differences between Bluetooth. So check this page, but it unfortunately doesn't have all controllers. Gully Kit seems like they are really the champs. On the other hand, this page is also sponsored by Gully Kit, wasn't it? It was Gully Kit ads. So yeah, you need to watch out with this shit. Yeah. But here, Sony DualShock 4 and 5 being among the top latencies, even for Bluetooth, which we are not using right now. Yeah, we're using wired dongle, which is not even mentioned here. But you saw it in the test. It was 1 millisecond wireless. That is impressive. That is even more impressive than most of this jimmies. Yeah. That is usually wired, dongle, Bluetooth. A lot of controllers, also the original Xbox controller comes with wireless dongle. You can even buy it. You can also buy it from AliExpress. with 5 gigahertz. Again, you don't need it. The Bluetooth, at least on my controller, runs with 8 to 10 milliseconds. That is good. But it's still for fun, for the massive tariffs hit the AliExpress dudes, bought a replica 5 gigahertz dongle because the original Microsoft one is out of production and costs copious amounts of money. I wanted to test it out, yeah. But I effed up my Xbox controller. I need to solder it. I ripped one of those rumble motors, which is not like an Xbox 360 controller via connector. It is cheaply soldered on top of the PCB. It's crazy. I open those controllers, I do some hardware stuff. The newer those controllers get, the more shittier the quality is. You really can't see it. It's harder to open them up. It's harder. You can. That's why a lot of people don't recommend you to open the PlayStation 5 controller, as there's a good chance that you might damage it or break it. Yeah? I must say the Xbox controller was also a nightmare. If you really want to disassemble, it's a nightmare. But I remember years ago with my sister, I disassembled the Xbox 360 controller. There was connectors. You could deconnect the rumble motors. Nah man, cheaped out. Even on my model, I don't want to see new models. Cheaped out, simply soldered cheaply on the board. If you pull too much on those rumble motors, they rip. It's nuts. But they sell that shit for $70-$80. But yeah, in this you can check. Yeah, there's wired, dongle, Bluetooth. Bluetooth usually considered the slowest. But again, you see some of those Bluetooth controllers here. Look at those jimmies. 3 milliseconds, man. That is good, yeah, for Bluetooth connection. And it doesn't require the newest protocol. And now Bluetooth 6 is about to release. It doesn't matter really that much. Those run probably Bluetooth 5.0 or something, and simply by good engineering, whatever, can keep Bluetooth super slow. And you don't need any shit. You don't need any dongle or whatever. That is impressive. Yeah, let's now check out here, because you guys didn't allow me to post on your Reddit. Check out the 8-bit DO, man. 11 milliseconds, 28 milliseconds, man. Even with the dongle, man, they're running super slow, slower than any Xbox controller. 14. Where's the Pro controller? Ah, here, Pro. One of the most expensive, okay, user fight, yeah, there's TMR sticks, that is good, but 28 milliseconds, 14 even with the goddamn dongle. What is that? So, a controller, there's a lot of shit going on, yeah, and there's a lot of companies having good reputation, but I tell you, it is a market of shittery and crappery. Latencies, man, 28 on Bluetooth. Again, my Xbox controller has 8. Now you get 28 plus emulation delay, screen delay. I don't know what you're on, 30, 45. Yeah? You will notice that, even if you can't even figure it out. And it doesn't matter if some Twitter or Reddit bitch says, no man, no, I didn't notice it. Yeah? And again, it is not about that you didn't notice it. It's simply don't please buy shitty products. If a product, yeah, if your car is not braking, perhaps you didn't notice it because you're only driving your car on a highway with whatever 60, yeah. You think, yeah, the brake's working good. I don't see a problem, yeah. But they are not performing accordingly compared to the yeah, can you even call it industry standards? And I don't think so. And that controller I think costs $100. Yeah? So the Pro 3. And give it. I ask a friendly question on the Reddit. I think it was not even 8-bit DO. It was controller. The admin didn't approve it. Yeah, it was fucking piece of shits. Welcome to Reddit, where if your opinion is not comfy, you simply don't get approved. And that is more in design. Outside everything shiny, inside everything shit. 28 milliseconds. 28 milliseconds on a Bluetooth. Even 15 milliseconds on a goddamn dedicated dongle. Should be fast. 11 milliseconds wired. Wired. Slower than my Bluetooth Xbox off-the-shelf controller. Pro. Super Pro. Well, at least it has TMR sticks. Great. And that is stuff, I don't know. Seems like someone YouTube was blind for that or whatever. And we also had the controllers, surprisingly, and then I realized how shitty they are. Especially if you play those games that were designed for low input lag. Retro games. But I must say, Sony, again, I don't say that it's a good controller, especially for the price. Again, I bought it massively discounted. Exactly this model was discounted for some reason. Down to 60 euros, which is still expensive, but compared to the Xbox controller, at least it offers some new stuff, yeah. And again, it's a touchpad and that massive low input delay, which I can absolutely feel. Playing Super Nintendo or something, I feel that immediately. I compared it last time, I said, goddamn, retro bit, ultra lag controller. Immediately felt it. Even as a noob, yeah, I could see, okay, I mistimed that jump, yeah, and didn't mistime that jump. It was simply a latency that screwed me up. Sure, you can get used to it, but don't buy shitty products, man. Fucking don't be one of those. Yeah, now the entire world is consumer slave bitch simp. Never listen to people. I have the control. I bought the controller and I think it is super great. If you hear that, look at me. I bought those controllers, but I tell you they are not great or in that or this sense. What is it called? Those, yeah, usually if you buy a product, yeah, you have those people that simply will try to do everything to explain a shitty product, why they bought a shitty product. Again, that is not a shitty product. That PS5 Dualsense, especially with that bridge, and I'm talking about PC gaming, but sure, yeah, for PlayStation, I need to get a controller. It's heavy ass. That's what I noticed. I didn't want to use it for Super Nintendo games. It's too heavy, and I'm not a limp. I'm rather fit, but it's super heavy. I didn't want it switching from because I had a SNES pad, which had around the original weight. Then I got this one here with a heavy battery with a heavy vibration motors, and I was thinking, nah, that was that. Super heavy. I think, yeah, definitely heavier than an Xbox controller. Definitely. It's the heaviest controller. I don't know, I never used a Steam controller. It's not a big thing, you will get used to it, but it simply feels different. Yeah? Okay. Okay, now about all this stuff. Why? Yeah, I will now use 500 Hertz. Ooh. That'll be good. And yeah, I'm using the auto haptics mode, which basically translates sounds into vibration. I would run with the regular settings. I increased the rumble gain to max. It was annoying. The controller is shaking for every sound. And again, I overestimated the genuine this haptics technology. I was thinking, wow, man, crazy. But I also did some tests redesign for PlayStation 5, and again, it's not really that. So we are now running the Dolphin emulator, which is probably the best GameCube and Wii emulator. And the Wii was, of course, heavily relying on all this touchpad, not really. Gyroscope, especially the Wii Mode Plus. Infrared, of course, you can't use. This would require a sensor bar, which you can do on your PC. Yeah? I think the original sensor bar is connected via USB, right? On the Wii. Because I remember I once bought a Zelda game for my PC. and both the sensor bar and a V mode plus, and basically play it like on a V. So there is motion simulation, and you can get, I checked the internet, you can get to work it, but it's definitely requiring some digging. Currently, at least in minutes, I couldn't figure out the gyroscope, and because I want to play Mario Kart V, I didn't give a damn about it. But it seems like it's not that easy. To set up the gyroscopes, I think I read something on the internet, you need to download a patch or something. There's even firmware for... Yeah, that is also another question. I'm not sure if the gyroscope is working via Bluetooth, yeah. Again, modern Bluetooth is fast, but limited. And considering that gyroscope information is, and you have also mice working on Bluetooth, I don't know, but could be that it's coming with some limitations. It said Rasberry dongle, you can get basically everything out of the controller like in a PlayStation 5. But again, currently I couldn't figure it out. If I saw a VG input, never heard of that. D input, yeah, direct. You can set it up for games where you really want to play with the gyroscope stuff. I now want to play Mario Kart V, so I don't care. So yeah, I would say the Dualsense probably better. Again, I emulated for 10 years everything on the planet with the Xbox controller. And never really suffered that much. Sure, there was some DS games, but even DS games have mouse emulation in order to emulate the touchpad. Exactly. There's modern DS emulators have really good mouse to touchpad emulation. Simply move your mouse around and press stuff, which is even faster than on the original. So yeah, the controller really, yeah, the latency is really good, but again, the original Xbox controller also has a pretty good latency, acceptable latency. Everything else, yeah, the touchpad, all this stuff, the speaker. I mean, the V controllers also had speakers, yeah, if you care for that. Probably there is even a way to set up the Dualsense speaker for V mode speakers. But that is, for me, is all. It's not really a necessary controller. If you don't have any, and then I still consider jack of all trades, either Xbox, Dualsense, or if you really dig into that, the new Steam controller. Well, yeah. I got it basically for the haptics, but... Okay, let's play. Enough talking.
Yahoo! Come on! Oh yeah! Hey!
Yeah, for example, I can now feel the vibration in the controller because the sound is routed through here. It's cool, but unnecessary, yeah, so...
So cool! Yeah.
Okay.
Here I go!
Ah, you can play with the... Okay.
Mario time! Here we go!
What? Ah, ja. Yeah, so far about Mario Kart VR, I like it is more simple than this complete overloaded Mario Kart Dash. Seems to be more like the classics. I didn't really enjoy that Mario Kart Dash. It was overloaded, man. It's like a TikTok Mario Kart. Shit happening on the screen. Two drivers, two pilots. Shit going on. It's too much. Yeah. The idea is more old school, it seems. But I'm not sure if I'm a fan of this auto haptics mode. Of the Rasberry DS5 dongle flash. The control is constantly vibrating, huh? But in a very nuanced way. I mean, it's force feedback, yeah? Like on a wheel. Ah, shit. Very sad.
Yeah! Mario wins! Wahoo!
Okay. Can I save? I don't want to flash mid. Okay, come on, let's finish it. I'm not sure about this auto haptics mode. I mean, that's why I bought the controller, yeah? Be right back. I mean, the controller is constantly nuanced vibrating to the music, but it is not really that different from a regular vibration controller, like a Xbox One. Let's see, read a... Can't even make you numb with constant vibration. I'd rather say vibration should be used for specific cases. But very precise. But I guess any controller would achieve that. I like the simplicity of my Kart V. Seems like they return more to the roots. Sure, it's a bit, seems a bit too easy on 150cc. On the other hand, a lot of people hated the rubber banding. But we're still leading. Okay, that was a bit harder. Are we already on? Nice visuals. Okay, now that was fun. I want to continue playing it. I couldn't double dash, man. For me was, oh shit, did I save? I think the V has a hard drive, right? Yeah, the V had a hard drive. I might now flash my Raspberry Pi with that original DS5 dongle to show you that. But there's tons of better tutorials. It's way more effort than me. Yeah. How to get that DS5 dongle working, it's not that hard. I think I need also the online web page. DS5. Is a new version released? There was the auto haptics, and the auto haptics again. The haptics based on the sound. The controller is constantly vibrating. I even don't like it. My hands become numb. They can't handle it much vibration anymore. Except for Steve Rambo. June 22, no, I think I have to. But it's cool to have that. There's also other forks of the S5 dongle, you need to check it out. But the original, let's quickly flash that on my Rasberry. So you disconnect the, or the Rasberry, you hold the reset button or whatever, and while connecting, it will then turn up as what you call it, storage. Then you simply pull. Oh shit, which one? I think that is it's not the, that is the audio haptics one we just used. I will flash it with the original. PlayStation controller already disconnected because it can't find the source anymore. Dongle disconnects and should restart, yeah. And then you simply press the home or PlayStation button on your controller and it connects. This software we don't need anymore. However, there's an online web config. That's exactly what you call it. Over in a new tab. I'm using Firefox, yeah. Firefox for some reason can't do a lot of this hit stuff and also not higher hertz rate. You need something like Chrome or Chromium based, whatever that means. There's also with controller tests. Controller tests on Firefox can't test above 125 hertz. Good. Open my Chrome, and now we can press connect. Dualsense is seen by the dongle. Read the settings, which already probably done. And here you can set stuff, yeah. Speaker gain. You can make your speaker louder. Shit. And set the polling rate is still set to 500 hertz. Real time is, I guess, 1000 hertz. But again, I talked about that. I mean, 500 hertz is already good. 250 hertz is already good. 125 hertz is good for a controller. When we tested controllers, see was 40, 50 hertz. And then things become difficult. Again, some claim 500 hertz is better for more precise and fast input. Which could be true, as we saw something similar to mice 500 versus 1000. But let's roll it retime then, and then save to flash. Wait, we don't need to. Polling rate control mode or click reconnect USB. Ah, yeah, for this shit you need to go USB. The auto haptics didn't require that. Yeah, for some stuff you need to go wired. USB. USB-C cable. Oh, Jimmy, come on. Really? Okay. Oh, yeah. Save to flash.
Yeah, I don't know. Was it even required?
Because the other tool. Yeah, okay, now it's real time. I don't. Would have to check again. I'm not sure if that was really required. Because there was this message USB connect. Only not on USB. Control is considered real time, which is probably 1000 Hz. Okay, let's continue playing with that. Hope I don't need to reset everything. That is now the original DS5 dongle firmware on a Raspberry Pi 2W. Oh, it seems like everything's working. Yeah.
Mario time! Here we go!
What?
Oh, mamma!
But considering that. Wait, how is it if I do manual drifting? So I don't need this heavy ass controller.
Mario! Yeah!
Can I just play with a Nintendo 64 controller?
Okie dokie!
kill me. Yeah, without motion controls, whatever, that Xbox, that PlayStation 5. Yeah, but okay, yeah, that's basically. It's a great controller for jack of all trades. But it really feels like some tank. Tank of a controller. I might now switch to my Tribute 64 version 2. Find it. Ah, yeah, no. Because that game requires so little buttons. I mean, it was designed for the V mode, which has not really much buttons. And you see, I somewhat dislike playing with it, especially with the dongle. I mean, the dongle is not really. The little bit also has a dongle, but it's heavy. It's heavy. I know a lot of people. Oh man, it's so heavy. It feels premium. I don't know. I rather prefer lightweight hardware. Same for mice. There's people. Oh, that mice feels heavy. It must be good. Even the pro gamers play with what I liked worked solutions. There is no benefit of having something heavy, simple controller. Oh man, that's wow. BAX, man, everybody's mixing it. Everybody's using the same, but completely mixed up. Okay. Okay, that's a problem. Ah, the controllers are on. Disconnected. It's Xbox motor.
Okay, man. So cool. Yeah.
Here I go!
Mario Kart. Whee!